Welcome to the Ang&Geno show, where we talk about ways for you to grow your life and your business. Welcome, welcome. How you doing, Ange?
Hey, Gene. Good, Gino. How are you doing today?
I am good. The sun's out. I'm excited. I don't know. I got a lot of things coming up. I realized a lot of good going on in my life, and I'm pretty stoked about.
It's
So,
wonderful.
but anyway, that leads me to what I was thinking about that I wanted to, as I most always do, have something I want to get your things on. So, I just had a client call this morning, and it's a client that I love, and uh, there's one division that this client has that's still under my standards underperforming. And we were talking about, the getting the most out of people, and got me thinking about how fortunate I am to be in a career where I get to help people.
Mm.
Because I know it sounds, especially to the younger version of myself anyway, yeah, the ultimate thing's being able to help people. It's so rewarding. Like, yeah, money is what's rewarding to me, right? But we realize that that's not the most important thing. So I started thinking about, and I don't know that I fully figured out when did I realize, when did I come to that point in my life where, this is what I want to do. I'm just wondering for you, when I know you worked for your dad and stuff, but when did you realize that this was going to be what you wanted to do, that you had to do?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Um, yeah, what a great question. And interesting, your thought process in terms of this feeling of, really being able to help somebody. So I remember I went to an all-girls high school, and I commuted from fairly far away. So I usually arrived really early to school because that way I could avoid traffic. And I remember on rainy days I'd always arrive a little earlier. And I was a senior, and at my high school, the seniors had this beautiful living room we could go into. So I parked the car and I came in from the cold rain, and I plopped down in this cozy couch in this beautiful living room. And my friend, uh, let's call her Sonia. My friend Sonia is in there, and she's crying, and she's at one of the tables, and she's really distraught, and she's the only other person in this room. And I go over, and I ask her what's going on, and she says, well, I want to run for secretary treasurer of the school, and today's the day I have to give a speech. And she says, I have no idea what to write for my speech. She says, I tried to get my parents to help me, but they're no help. um she just says they told me I shouldn't do it, etc. She had kind of gotten some negative vibes at home. And I remember sitting down with her, and I said, okay, so let's get some things out. I'll help you write your speech. And I took her through, I won't go through all the rigmarole, but basically, I talked her through all her, why she wanted to do this. I just got her talking, and we wrote down, I said, write that down. I said, let's put that in order. And we nutted out a speech in about half an hour. She had her speech, and they were all her own words. It was just, giving her a chance to look at herself from another person's point of view. She gave her speech, and she won. She won the whole election for secretary treasurer, like by a
Nice.
landslide. And I didn't realize I was going to go into the world of coaching then, and getting into the business side of psychology really took me a while to find. It wasn't until I got all the way through grad school. But for me, it was powerful, not just to help people, but to help her specifically attain a goal, which is why I love business coaching, because there's a goal, there's a scoreboard. And so for me, I think when I coach people, I say, okay, so what's the business dashboard we're working against? And coaching becomes fun. It's not this endless, I'm going to just be different, I'm just going to be better. And no, it's like, let's set a goal. And that's the exciting part. I see you smiling because you love that too, right?
Yeah.
Like you and I want a scoreboard. And what's the fun of playing? You want to play catch, or do you want to play baseball? I want to play baseball because we can throw a ball back and forth at the park with a mitt. But that's relaxing, but I want to play the game. I want, and that's
Well,
part of,
there's
the
something
game
to
is
that
about
too.
continuous improvement.
What's measured can be improved.
Agree, agree. Like, when you start playing catch, it's like, how many times can we catch it without dropping it? Right. Even
Mhm.
that adds a little spice to a simple game of catch. Let's take a step back every 10 throws and see how far I think there's this fun way to take something to the next level. And I always talk about level up and leveling up. And leveling up to me is about, however, whatever it takes, let's find that next place, because it keeps things interesting. I think humans, we know that there's this quality that humans, because the human body really wants homeostasis, which is a word that means we just want things to stay the same. And we want to keep the same temperature. We want to keep the same energy output. So the body wants homeostasis, but the human mind really craves challenge and progress. And so I love when people kind of discover the joy of what I call continuous improvement, which is a term that we use in lean manufacturing and lean systems, but it taps into some deep motivational roots for humans. So I love a system like that where it works at an individual level. And because organizations are made up of people, that's how organizations run too. A lot of people are surprised, like, wow, organizations run like individual people do. I go, well, that's all an organization is a group of people working together. So it's fun when people realize that their work is connected and together they can succeed at something. Because it kills me watching employees hack away at each other, hack away at each other's departments, complain about each other. And when I start with why, so why do we work together? And when people step back and realize why they have to work together, it's not because they have to get along or they have to be the same person or they have to like what the other person wears or does. It helps them, they realize, oh my gosh, our personalities are getting in the way of what we're really here to do. And I love watching that switch because that's where there's profitability and productivity. And people realize, well, this is so much more fun than complaining about each other.
Okay, I have to tell you, and then now we get to do a shameless plug for what we do together. Um, so I was speaking with, I won't say the name of the business, but the client I have that we did the class for in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
He wants me to come out for a visit, but so I spoke with him yesterday, and he said, "Oh my God, that thing you and Ange did, that workshop was so impactful on our business." He said, "We are now making decisions together as a team, and so there's momentum with it. It's so different," he said, "than from what me telling everybody this is what I wanted." So this is a him saying, that class really helped him. He
Mm-hmm.
thought this was going to be the thing for his team, but he goes, "I have the notes right here in front of me on my desk still. I'm looking at them. I'm living by them. We're implementing all this stuff." So it ties right into the what you're talking about, the individual.
Yes.
I mean, again, he has an amazing business. He built this amazing business being this kind of dictator type leader.
Mm-hmm.
And now he says we're making decisions as a team, and it's awesome.
Yeah. It's fun because the challenges are divided and shared. The celebrations are multiplied and magnified when humans do things together. That's why I say, people always say, Angela, why does work have to be fun? I say, fun is that metaphor that when teams are working together, work doesn't feel like work. Money rolls in, productivity and profitability happen as a byproduct, not as the goal that you're sweating to happen. And until people talk to somebody that's had that transformation, people can't believe it. They're like, oh, it's like, why do you talk about fun? Angela, business is serious. This is serious business. I'm like, of course we have serious moments, but it's for the love of the game. It's all a big game. And yeah, people working well together, it's a happy, fun, it's a high, it's a natural high. I love hearing that feedback. Thank you for sharing that feedback.
Yeah, I knew
And
you'd like
this
that.
is the way we work. I mean, we don't do training, we don't do development, we create massive sustainable change. And this is now 2 months later, and they're still rolling on that momentum.
Yeah.
And you can know what to do, but until people understand the why and the how, you can put it right in their face. They can say they want it, but if you don't help them with the why and the how, and then like we do, model it, powerful
Yeah.
examples and metaphors, it's like it, then they're hooked and they live it. They've experienced it, right?
Yeah.
That's the interactive part of what we do. So I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and
That's
even
such a
more.
great
So remember his son was, we thought, going to be the biggest wall, and he was for about, I mean, that wall came
the
down
first
so
day.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
he
he
ended
was
up
the
being
one
the,
singing the praises.
yeah, he was probably the biggest advocate after it. Well, so that event I do every year with all my clients in Las Vegas, um, he usually comes alone, but he's like, I'm bringing, that individual because I want him.
Now he
I
gets
guess
it.
he's more in that mindset now too, which is
Well, and this is
awesome.
interesting because when people have what I call family owned businesses, this is a family owned business, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of crisis from one generation to the next because we bring a lot of baggage because it's family, and sometimes the next generation struggles to engage, be seen, be heard. Sometimes the original generation, the generation ahead, doesn't listen, doesn't know how to connect or engage. And so they don't have a space to really emerge as leaders, managers, business owners together. And this is a great example of how this process helped to unlock, because that was really a family dynamic that we unlocked too,
Yeah.
for the son to be really icy and disengaged and like barely wanted to show up. And now he's like, oh my gosh, this was the greatest thing. And when we did our closing, circle, he brought tears to our eyes in terms of what it did for him. But what we did for the family and the survival of a family business, to me, family owned businesses built on the sweat of one of our parents or family members' backs, to lose that either to professional management, if you don't have to, selling out, closing down. It's sad. It's hard because starting a business, everybody who started a business knows how hard it is. So to have a business that, even if it's just barely in business, is a gift to learn how to run. And I love that we opened up the door of possibility for father, son, and future generations of this business so that it can continue to thrive and to have the employees feel like they're a welcome part of that family.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm again, it was a good business already. I'm excited to see how that change is going to make it grow even faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you break it down to think about the investment in each employee, but that you invest in it together, that's the thing. When people experience something together, it's very different than if you send one person off to a workshop and you expect that one person to get fixed and change and go back and share what that magic was all about and be like, what are you talking about? But when the whole team does it, this is the power behind these team seminars that we do. We invite the whole team to come in, and the whole group, and whether a business is in a startup phase, unlocking that potential, and they're having business conversations in the workshop. This isn't a workshop on, oh, we're going to talk about this theory now. People come, and for 2-3 days they're working on their business, but it's how they're working on their business. That's the part we
Yeah.
unlock for them personally. So it is exciting. That, you're right. That, for me, yes, we all have to get paid, put a roof over our head, but oh boy, does that bring joy for us.
Yeah.
And that's the fun for us. You and I were like, this is way too fun. We got to keep doing this.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And I've already shared that other class we've started building. The two people I shared it with are really excited about it. So, um, yeah, I like what we're doing. It's fun. It's
I do too.
powerful.
I'm glad our people that we're helping
Yeah.
like what we're doing too.
Yeah. Again, so
It's
that
our
got me
scoreboard.
thinking, how lucky are we to be able to do what we do?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's a joy. It's a joy. I do a lot of, I love teaching in a true setting in a classroom. And I do a lot of volunteer teaching, UCLA, and I'm invited to teach some courses to graduate students as they are about to enter the business world, to help them prepare and give some advice. And it's so funny because I used to come home from teaching, which, as we all know, even if it pays, it pays nothing, and usually
Right.
I'm doing it for free. But I would come home from a day of teaching, whether it was on Zoom or in person, and my husband would be like, "Oh, you taught today, didn't you?" I'll walk in the door and I'll just be like, "Oh, I had the greatest day," and because there's something about teaching and helping others, and I mean, human survival, for me, it taps into what it means to be human, because we survived in packs and tribes. Humans did not evolve to succeed alone. It's great when you see a lone star, a lone survivor MacGyver his way through a dubious outcome, right? Those hero stories. But really, we survived because as people, we're better. And so this idea of teaching is, for me, how we ensure the next generation, the next person can get it better, get it right, learn faster. There's people in my department that used to work for me when I ran a training and development department inside a big company. I told them, I said, my goal is for you to be as good as me now, 10 years faster, 15 years faster.
Yeah.
And so that's my goal. I'm not threatened by that. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to know what I did is quantifiable and givable as a gift, as a skill, and that makes me better. So to know that it works and I see it working. So I'm so proud of them. I'm very
Yeah.
proud of them.
Well, and we're passing that to our kids. Like again, my son just graduated UCSB and he's already got his own business and stuff. And I'm so stoked at thinking at that age.
Mm,
And again, he's young. He's graduated. He's just 21 years old, having already graduated. Um,
I see that too.
so
And there's nothing
yeah,
more wonderful than them. I
they're going to
look
be
at what
so
my son
far. So, well, at least in my case, I
so
didn't
far.
have the father figure you did mentoring me just so much farther, so much earlier, at least 10 years earlier.
Yeah, but you know what? My father figure didn't step into my life until he would have been like a good boss. And
Mm.
I, oof. This is another story, but I remember one of my first jobs where I got hired as a psychologist out of grad school. Um, I thought my boss was like the most amazing mentor. I thought he wanted everything for me. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's like my dad is. He's going to care for me and like really wants what's best for me. And then I remember I was coming up on accruing enough hours to sit for the licensing exam, which would mean that I could go out practice on my own. I could have the checks written to me, which before you're licensed, the check is written to your boss. And I remember sitting down with him and saying, "Oh, I can't wait to take my licensure exam." And he says, "Why would you want to do that?" And in that instant, the penny dropped, because I was making him a lot of money and he
Yeah.
didn't want to give me my freedom. I would have stayed I would have stayed and made my money there and been a part of that practice. But when I realized, when you're lucky and you have a parent that believes in you, no one in life is going to care for you. Even that I mean, I think mentors can only go so far, that's why I love the kind of mentoring that we do, because like, yeah, we get paid to do what we're doing, but like, we're not going to take credit for the company that someone builds, like they get to go get the credit. But
Right.
there are mentors that are like, you got to watch out. I remember, and I just remembered, for me, I wanted the world to be that kind of world. And was I naive? Absolutely. So that was one of my important lessons. But I remember, I'll never forget that. And so that's a lesson, for example, I've taught my son. I'm like, son, when someone wants to offer you something and you think they're being so nice to you, look back to see what it is they're going to get that you don't realize you're bringing, because you need to know what you're bringing to the table too, to offer. Always, always, always. So, I'm so proud of your son and his business and his degree. And I look at both our kids, and I'm not like, I didn't know how to negotiate a contract when I was 21 for a team, and I didn't know how to talk to like future coaches about like what was going to happen next, and like both our kids doing things way ahead of where we were when we were 21. I was just going to school every day, boy, and wasn't
Yeah.
that easy, showing up to class, writing some notes, waiting for the weekend. College was easy in those days. I had a job on the weekends, I worked, but life was not complicated. So I'm proud of our kids, and I think you and I, well, we're putting a little something extra in them, knowing what will make a difference, and I guess they're doing well with it.
Yeah. And that probably is in, you know, uh, the humblest way to say, I know that our kids are fortunate to have parents that think the way we do. Because
We try
not,
hard. Oh, and I make my mistakes. I don't want anyone listening. They think
well, we've
I've
all,
had, oh my God, Gino, people will come to me and go, "Oh, Angela, you must be the most amazing mom." And I say, actually, being a psychologist, it's hard because I see all my mistakes with a front row seat as a
Mhm.
psychologist in the back of my head going, it's not what you're supposed to say right now. So sometimes you don't have to, I can guarantee everybody, we do not have to be perfect parents, but we just have to know what things are non-negotiable. Like, I believe in you, I support you, but I'm going to screw up as a parent, and you're going to screw up as a kid, as a human, right? We've got to accept that and move on. And also, yeah, no, we can talk about the millions of ways it is takes that you can be a good parent, because I don't want anyone to think we're sitting here going, "Oh, we're the best parents ever."
I was perfect. I don't know. Surprised you're
Oh
not.
yeah, Gino.
Oh. Some
Oh
of the
my God.
things I'd say, like he's like,
Oh,
he'd call me out and when, I'm teaching him to do something, he'd call me out on it when I wasn't doing it, basically testing patience. So
ah,
my response was, you need to be better than me. So I'm showing you what not to be so you can do better.
there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think one of the most transformative things in my relationship with my son was um, being very quick and keen to be honest when I knew I had made a mistake,
Yeah.
and tell him I had made a mistake. And the forgiveness that he brought taught me about how to let things go and forgive. And he has that in spades as a human. But the humility that I brought and the honesty that I wanted to bring to the relationship was like, hey, I made a mistake, because we're going to love each other and not be perfect people, because being perfect is not what makes us lovable. It's about showing up, seeing each other. This other, we talked about this in another podcast, being seen. So yeah, I admit my mistakes very quickly. And as soon as I identify them, and it melts the conflict so quickly because we identify what the problem was. And it's not that we don't love each other. It's not that we don't care for each other. It's, I did a boo-boo and I want to
Yeah.
undo it. Can we do a do-over? So I know you're in there too, Mr. Gino.
Oh
I
yeah.
know.
Maybe. Hey,
Yeah.
we're up against the clock.
I think we are. Another one. This was great conversation today. Thank
It's
you.
always fun.
It is.
Okay.
Until next time.
Take care, Ange.
You too, Gino.